Hey there everyone, welcome back to our overview of TracCloud, the new student visit tracking software we are employing at Union State College and will be rolling out for widespread use in the spring of 2024. So in our previous discussion, we looked at launching the student sign-in kiosk. Now, in this one, we are going to look at some of the basic features that most TracCloud users are likely going to need, and they need early on. So we're going to look more comprehensively at other tools, the new features, and so on in later videos in the series. But right now, we're just focusing on, like I say, sort of basic needs for getting started. So chief among them, something that most of us do, whatever our job is on campus. If we use TutorTrack, we probably had to search for students at times, either looking at their records of visits, or maybe we need to make adjustments to the visits. We need to add notes, that sort of thing. For whatever reason, if we need to find a student in the system, we can go to the search students widget right here. We can enter a last name, or we can enter a student ID, and we search, and there's our student. So by clicking onto their entry, we now have some general information, name, status in the system, are they active or inactive, their student ID, which is kept in the barcode and or other ID fields, their contact information, and the date when the record was created. Other items that may be of use to you, the attendance list will give you access to all of their previous visits. Campus, we don't really use this tab right now. Registrations, we might. This will give us a list of their recorded registrations for previous and current semesters. And this is not accurate. These are not active semesters, but I forced it into active status because I wanted to model something for you a little bit later. So don't pay any attention to that inaccuracy. Now we're going to go back to our attendance list, and we're going to look at one of these visits. Again, the visit info is very similar to what we were used to in TutorTrack. We have time and date of the visit, start time, end time, and place for notes. I know in health and wellness, that field gets used quite extensively, maybe some others around campus. So we can make any adjustments we need to this form, but we have to make sure that we save it at the end or we will lose our changes. So another reason we might be looking at a student, we might need to actually create a visit, right? We might need to create one from the ground up, in which case we'll go to Actions, Create Visit. We have the Visit Info form again, just like the one we just saw. We only need to populate it with the most necessary information, and so and we can make other changes as we need to after it's created, or we can just add everything at once. Again, we don't use consultants. The system will require a reason, so let's say tutoring services. So for a date, let's say November, not that week. Let's say Monday, November 16th. And the visit started at 3 p.m. So we'll just and now if we know how long the visit lasted, we can just enter duration, or we can make changes over here to the end time. We don't use location. We may use online, but we're not interested in that right now. So the other piece of information we need to add, if we have section information, for what section, what course, and what particular section of that course was the student getting help. So in the past, we could sort of enter something general here, but it wouldn't necessarily link up with their previous registration. What's nice about this system is that we can actually search for, we know the class, we can search for entries, and it will intelligently look at the student's registration and find a section with that same section number that they were for which they were registered, so we can actually add the right section to the form pretty quickly. And so that should be sufficient. And if we don't need to add notes, we can save. And so we've created a visit. Good and well, but now let's return to our dashboard and let's try that same process again, but with a batch visit. This will be again of special interest if we are creating a large number of visits at one time. So all those visits that may have piled up over the fall semester, you have maybe stacks of paper sign-in sheets. This is the way you'll want to go. So we'll create a batch visit. We identify the sender for which we're creating them. So we just need to provide some basic information, and if we think this part through, it'll actually save us some time and effort while we're creating all those visits. The system will create a structure for us, and then we can make modifications to each individual visit. I call these super visits. Okay, we're putting a bunch of people in all at the same time, and then we're going to differentiate them later one by one. But just to get started, we need a common start time and date and a common reason. So let's say we have 9 students for whom we need to create visits, all on the same day. And so we're going to select that day. I know we don't actually have classes then, but let's just say it's going to be for Tuesday the 12th. Okay, not an accurate time. Let's just say, though, for the sake of argument, that it was mid-semester. What we don't want to do is mix this super visit in with other organic student visits. We don't want to be differentiating or maybe run the risk of modifying a student's visit who wasn't part of this group, right? So we want to pay special attention to the start time and end time. That will help us, identify exactly which ones we're going to be working on as we move through our list. But also, I think it helps just to put them in a place where they're going to sort of be out of the way. So we can actually sort of stash them on the day of their visit, but not too near the time of the actual visit, like during business hours. Let's say 4 a.m. That should be fairly uncongested. And let's say they were there for 60 minutes. Okay, and let's also say they're there for tutoring services, because hopefully most of the people we'll be creating entries for were using our tutors. We really don't need to add anything else. What we do need, though, now is to add the identities of the people for whom we're creating visits. We'll do that with a batch scan, the rightmost tab right here, and scan type, other IDs. So what I've done is I've created a spreadsheet in Excel where I'm just entering my student IDs. I am not entering other data. That will really slow you down, but just the student IDs from my paper sign-ins in the order in which they were, in the order in which I'll be working on them. So I want to make it easier for myself. So they're going to be in the same order here as they are on the sign-in sheet. So I'm going to select these first 9. I'm going to copy and paste. Going to drop them into think I grabbed them properly. There we go. And there we go. So now we'll come down to process scans. And if we're lucky, yes, we'll have 9 scan visits created. So it found all these individual students and it's created visits for them at the time and day we requested. So now we can go in, and so we'll use search, and we're going to pick the date that we selected. And we can include other identifiers if we need to, but for our purposes here, that should be enough. So here's our list. And of course, they didn't come in at 4 in the morning, but now we can go in to each entry. So each of our individuals on the list, we can go to their attendance list, and now we can pick the individual visit info page that we're going to be modifying, and we can just come in and pretty rapidly make our changes if we have it lined up.